Hi, my name is Kevin Machoka. I have an engineering background, and as part of my continuous professional development, I read and research articles of interest. And today, I would like to present one to you that was of interest to me, and I hope it will be to you. The article comes from the Institute of Materials, Minerals, and Mining, Materials World publication. It's like this. And it's a monthly magazine that surveys the materials, mining, and minerals landscape, be it in industry or academia. The article is titled Hacking into E-Waste and was featured in the July/August issue of 2020. And it gives a survey of the e-waste landscape, including the challenges and some of the solutions ongoing across the globe to tackle this problem. So let's get right into it. Hacking into e-waste. Hackerspace community initiatives are tackling our planet's ever-growing stockpiles of e-waste. Dr. Parvez Alam, Fellow of the Institute of Materials, Minerals and Mining, Senior Lecturer in the School of Engineering at the University of Edinburgh, UK, explores some of the inspiring solutions. Assuming continuity in the current growth rate of e-waste, we can expect to generate as much as 120 million tons per year by 2050 worldwide. E-waste is produced at a rate of 50 million tons each year globally. Great Britain alone is responsible for producing 1.6 million tons of e-waste per annum, and according to recent Basel Action Network reports, the UK remains the worst in Europe for illegally exporting toxic e-waste to developing countries. Around 10 to 20% of the UK's e-waste is usually recycled, with the remaining 80% sent to landfills, incinerators, which is damaging both to the environment through harmful leachates and dioxins and human health. Materials in e-waste include metals such as iron and steels, copper and aluminum, as well as plastics such as high-impact polystyrenes, hold on to this one, acrylonitrile, butadiene styrene copolymers, and polypropylenes. Now I did a quick Google search on some of these so that you don't get caught up. The polystyrenes are the housings in your TVs, so Samsung TVs or whatever you might have, the housings that actually houses the components, so that's usually a polystyrene component, plastic component. And polypropylenes are just used in electrical components as insulators. So hopefully that helps. Precious metals such as silver, gold, palladium, iridium, and rare earth metals exist in smaller fractions. Extraction of these is hazardous, requiring solutions such as hydrogen peroxide, hydrochloric acid, and nitric acid, and sodium cyanides, which in turn necessitate highly specialized procedures for disposal. Countries such as India, Nigeria, and China have crude structures in place to extract valuable metals and components. The working environment is extremely hazardous, and the workers are typically paid little for their efforts. In several developing countries, the separation and deconstruction of such e-waste is a risk undertaken for the most part, by children, a practice that is both ethically problematic and concerning. Less hazardous alternatives to chemical extraction put forward include microbial processes. Both the bacterium C. biolaceum and the fungus A. niger could offer suitable alternatives for gold-plated e-waste, while the bacteria T. ferrooxidans and T. thiooxidans, as well as fungi A. niger and P. simplissimum, have been shown to extract other metals such as lead, copper, and aluminum. How, you might ask, Kevin? I thought you'd never ask. So, these bacteria, with the example of copper, looks something like this. So you would typically dig this up in the ground, something called chalcopyrite, which is a compound of copper, iron, and sulfur. And once that's dug out of the ground, it's dissolved in acid, usually could be sulfuric acid, and there's an oxidation that occurs, and the electrons actually go to feed the cell and the organic processes in the cell. The Fe3 plus oxidizes the insoluble copper sulfide into copper sulfate, And then once you have this copper sulfate, which you can collect in ponds, you can use scrap metal or electrolysis to get the final product. But what does that actually mean? So here you'll have a big bath of CuSO4, right? And what you can do in this situation is stick a big lump of scrap iron in, right? And what will happen is, because copper is more reactive than iron, you will get the iron going into solution and the copper. So if I draw this again in a different color, you will have the iron in solution, and you will have bits of copper. And the equation actually goes by this, or more completely, it's something like this. Chemists, bear with me. Fe goes to Cu, and this goes into solution. Or you could have electrolysis, which is where you can have the same tub, but you stick 2 carbon electrodes in there. Yes, still with the copper sulfate solution, CuSO4. And what happens is, sorry, I forgot that. Here's the power, right? What you will have is, when you pass electricity through this, minus plus, you will have the Cu come here. So the Cu goes here, and the rest, the sulfur, the oxygen, go either into solution or into gaseous form, and sometimes you can get gas bubbles here. So you have either using scrap metal or using electrolysis to get, you can take this out then, and then you get your Cu, and with further purification you get your batteries that go into the electrical components that go into your electrical vehicles. So back to the article. So that's how the bacteria would work. Biological technologies such as these are of little benefit in the developing world. However, where people willingly expose themselves to hazardous chemicals to make economic ends meet. Moreover, many of the microorganism-based approaches are still at a low technology readiness level, and as such, the likelihood of mass upscaling and utility is presumably relatively low. Next section, activities in Africa. An alternative to e-waste extraction, upcycling, has recently experienced a growth in impetus. This not only resolves many of the issues of human exposure to hazardous chemicals, but also adds economic value to e-waste, transforming it into higher value products and machines. This is made possible through global and local networks of support, often taking the form of hackerspace communities. Born initially through small activities in Germany in the early 1990s, such as the Berlin-based C-Base, hackerspace movements are now found around the world. Most are in Europe and North America. However, many new projects have recently been launched in Asia, Africa, and South America. Many of those in African countries are directly aimed at resurrecting e-waste to create entirely new products with, at best, market potential and at the very least, utility potential within the local community. The Agbobloshi, you'll have to forgive me, Agbobloshi Makerspace Platform, or AMP, is an example of positive impact through e-waste upcycling. Located in one of the most polluted cities in the world, Accra, in Ghana, AMP has direct access to the Agbobloshi scrapyard, hosting a range of aeronautical, automotive, electronics, and household waste. Rather than consenting to the idea that the scrapyard is a toxic e-waste dump, AMP employs the philosophy of upcycling and safe, urban, open-air manufacturing. The scrapyard is viewed as an ecosystem for machine hacking where the materials and components are freely available from reclaimed e-waste sources. The AMP provides disassembly templates for different types of e-waste, such as microwaves, televisions, air conditioners, refrigerators, mobile phones, and PCs, ensuring that local workers engaged in hacktivities are able to deconstruct and rework the e-waste safely. Now, that sounds pretty cool, so I decided to check it out myself. So I'm gonna have a look here and see if I can pull that up for you to see. I don't think it's gonna let you see unless I do that. Yes, so here we go. So this is a template that's available on their website, qamp.net/library/mobile-phones/again. And this tells the booklet on how to take apart a phone. So you get a material composition, a bit of a background, the scrap value in local currency, that's Ghana cedi, how it works. Furthermore, you get a breakdown of the components. Look at this, all the components to look forward to taking out, brands, the hazardous materials, the primary materials, the weight composition. You go down, a bit of background on what some of the components are used for, the tools for disassembly, how to take it apart, what the components look like when they're taken apart. I mean, it's pretty comprehensive, given the situation. So I find that that's quite impressive, actually. And I'd really like to go there, actually, to be fair, to take a look and see. So any Ghanaians who get to see this, please reach out. Another West African country, Togo, is home to WoLab, which is the first African hackerspace set up in 2012. A relatively famous WoLab success story is WAFAT, a 3D printer made almost entirely from e-waste. This said, WoLab are big thinkers, having recently suggested in the NASA APP Challenge Hackathon that e-waste can be upcycled and sent to Mars. Rather than sending e-waste to developing countries, WoLab posits that it would be better to reconstruct e-waste into space technology for explorative purposes at a fraction of the cost of higher-end technologies. Let me read that again. WoLab posits that it would be better to reconstruct e-waste into space technology for explorative purposes at a fraction of the cost of higher-end technologies. Now we look at reverse engineering in Asia. Asia produces only about 1/5 of the e-waste per person compared to Europe. Yet due to significantly greater population size within the continent, Asia generates over 40% of the world's e-waste, over 20 million tons. Heightening levels correlate quite naturally with changes in accessibility to electronic products, with more than a 60% increase in e-waste produced across the entire continent within the last 5 years. Online hackerspace listings reveal under 100 hackerspaces within the entire continent, low levels relative to its population size. Europe, in comparison, boasts over 520 listed hackerspaces, several of which are already engaged in upcycling e-waste. Given the scale of e-waste in Asia, it is somewhat surprising that there is only a handful of hackerspaces that report a focus on upcycling, reconstructing, or managing e-waste. That said, there is growing impetus for improved management and upcycling of e-waste. The SEA Makeathon, organized annually by the Southeast Asia Makerspace Network, is an aspirational example. In 2016, this event comprised hackerspace enthusiasts in 10 cities across Southeast Asia, working through the summer to design a world with zero waste. Some of the inventions included Internet of Things recycling kiosks for e-waste sorting and management, upcycled e-waste tracking devices, upcycled dehydration technology, and e-waste reconstructed to turn food into high-quality fertilizer. Wow. A dissimilar, yet equally creative venture from 4R Recycling Pvt Limited in Bangalore, India, formulated a pipeline to reconstruct e-waste into household showpieces. This is not upcycling per se, but reconstruction into creatively designed showpieces requires a different level of artistry and innovation not usually seen in typical upcycling processes. Recognizing the need for additional upcycling activities in Asia, the most recent Global Challenges Research Fund project at the University of Edinburgh, UK, considers how e-waste in Nepal could be used to create robots and robotic parts. In 2011, the Nepalese government enacted the Solid Waste Management Act, with aims to maintain a clean and healthy environment by minimizing the adverse effects of solid waste on public health and the environment. E-waste is currently a major source of concern in the Nepalese capital, Kathmandu, where it is dumped into landfills at a rate of 18,000 tons per annum. There are, therefore, sizable volumes of material available for recovery into marketable products. The University of Edinburgh team is helping to develop reverse engineering skills at Kuopa Engineering College, which is affiliated with the Purbanchal University. This is providing new material with which the college will reinforce their taught course on solid waste management. In parallel, the Edinburgh group is working on product development R&D at Green Nepal Recycling, a newly created SME with a trash-to-treasure focus. Nepal has a knowledge gap and indeed skills shortage around upcycling products from e-waste. Creating programs for engineering students to fill these gaps is a means to instigate a new hackerspace community in Asia focused on e-waste derived products. In the longer term, this will strengthen local economies in Kathmandu while concurrently decreasing the large volumes of landfill e-waste that Nepal has gathered over the decades. Although COVID-19 has put a pause on these activities in Nepal for the time being, the work will recommence with the primary focus on upcycling e-waste to create robotic farmhands. How we manage our ever-increasing stockpiles of e-waste will depend to an extent on how we view them. As it stands, e-waste dumped into a landfill has no market value, but through innovation and creative design thinking, some waste can be upcycled and sold. That sounds like a unique value proposition for business. I'm going to say that again. As it stands, e-waste dumped into a landfill has no market value, but through innovation and creative design thinking, the same waste can be upcycled and sold. To date, the extraction of precious metals is an economic driver that exposes both people and the environment to hazardous toxic substances. Increasing the numbers of hackerspace communities, especially in those countries, might be a viable solution to the problems of e-waste management. Hackerspaces have the additional benefits of encouraging community development, skills development, economic development, and creative thinking. Thank you. So as you can see, the issue of e-waste is quite substantial, and I hope this article gave you some new perspective, be it on the technical or the industrial and academic cooperation ongoing to tackle the problem. I'll see you next time with another article, probably from the following month's issue, but thanks for listening. Peace.